Hey, how's it going? And welcome to the final Fallout New Vegas weekend video. I hope you've enjoyed your stay. Man, 10 years. I mean, obviously I'm not recording this the day of, but 10 years ago, Fallout New Vegas came out. I just got like a weird chill that went down my spine as I was thinking about that because I can literally visualize kind of where I was 10 years ago, right before and around when the game came out. It absolutely was one of my most anticipated video game releases of all time. I would say it's definitely still in the top 5. But I figured I would end Fallout New Vegas weekend and celebrate the 10th anniversary by just kind of talking about some memories I have of the lead up to its release, actually playing it, and just how much I enjoy Fallout New Vegas as a game. But in order to talk about New Vegas, I feel like I have to start with Fallout 3. So Fallout 3 was one of the first, 3 or 4 PlayStation 3 games I ended up getting back when I first got it in around 2008. I think I had Grand Theft Auto 4, I had Metal Gear Solid 4, and then I had Fallout 3. And at least at the time, Fallout 3 really was a game unlike anything I had played up to that point, because, I was a Nintendo babby. I only really had the GameCube and the Wii and, the various Nintendo handhelds. And nothing quite like that really existed on that system. It was sort of mind-blowing being able to literally just go anywhere you want, kind of do whatever. Like, if you wanted to kill a particular character, you could. You could steal from people, you could be evil. It just felt like it was such a world of freedom that I had never really experienced up to that point. And Fallout 3, I look back on it and I kind of think it was good for what it was, but it's definitely not something that I'm that attached to. I've made attempts at replaying Fallout 3, but it just never clicks in my head the same way. That sense of exploration just isn't really there anymore, and without the incredible factions and storytelling and setting of New Vegas, I tend to lose interest in it pretty quickly, but for the time, I thoroughly enjoyed Fallout 3. So when Fallout New Vegas was announced, I was like, dog! I remember watching that initial reveal trailer, the one where Eddie is going down the road until he gets shot at, many times. I had it downloaded onto my PS3 because at the time I didn't have easy access to a computer. And man, I would just play that video all the time, looking for, just little things about the environment or the weapons or whatever it may have been. And the fucking song, I got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle, jingle, jingle. Apologies for my shitty singing, but that fucking song is just engraved into my brain permanently because of that trailer. And just the concept alone was something I was so looking forward to, like, Fallout in Vegas. What a cool fucking idea. And so I waited, and I remember, for Christmas of 2010, the only thing I asked for was Fallout New Vegas on my PS3, because, no computer, had to make do with what I had, but, and that was back in 2010, that was when the recession was going on, so money was pretty tight, and honestly, that year, I don't remember wanting anything else except New Vegas. It came out October 19th, and so I had to just wait for weeks and weeks until Christmas when I finally got it. And that Christmas morning, there it was, right under the tree, Fallout New Vegas for the PlayStation 3, and also the strategy guide, which I didn't even ask for, but my mom was just like, yeah, go ahead, I'll get the strategy guide. And so I sunk my fucking teeth into it, and man, was it enjoyable. And at the time, a lot of it really kind of went over my head, because it's not the most complicated story in the world, but there is a lot going on. There's all these different factions and world building going on. There's a lot of pre-established history from Fallout 1 and 2, which I hadn't played at the time. It's definitely a lot more intricate than 3 when it comes to the story and the setting and all. But I was kind of just along for the ride. I mean, I so thoroughly remember my first time walking out of Doc Mitchell's office and the fucking blinding light of Good Springs envelops you. The first time walking into Nipton where you meet Vulpes and you see the crucifixion that happened. meeting Boone for the first time, going to the strip, meeting Mr. House and Yes Man. It's just like, man, although I still absolutely thoroughly love the game and I love just playing it and exploring it, it's never quite the same as your first time. But one of my most bitter memories from that time actually comes from a guy I used to be friends with. I remember this was just a couple days after Christmas. I was playing the game and I was on MSN Messenger, maybe it was Skype, but you know, I'm a fucking boomer, sue me. And he just started talking to me and he was like, man, Fallout New Vegas kinda sucks. And I was like offended. And then I asked him why, and some of his reasons for why were some of the stupidest shit, and to this day, it's still kind of bothers me. His first complaint is that it's boring and there's nothing to do and it's just a desert. Like, alright, that's a stupid criticism, but whatever. I can kind of see how you can sit there and be like, you know, it does kind of feel empty, but it's because it's literally a desert. You're in the middle of the fucking Nevada desert. And then his next complaint, and this is something that to this day still keeps me up at night, was he said, and it's also just not funny like Fallout 3 was. Now, Fallout New Vegas is a fucking hilarious game. It has some of the funniest, like, character writing I've seen basically ever. You know, you ever talk to the think tank in Old World Blues or Yes Man? And so I asked him, like, what do you mean? And he says, well, I got to this part where there were a bunch of people that got crucified, and I thought, that's just not that funny. As if it's supposed to be a fucking comedy routine. And he said that with complete seriousness, by the way. That wasn't like a double joke about the obvious fact that crucifixion isn't funny. Like, you weren't watching an episode of the Looney Tunes. Those fucking people were tortured to death. And man, just the various reasons he would come up with for why he didn't like New Vegas kept popping up, like, throughout the various months after the game came out, and it got to be really fucking annoying. I don't know if he just bought New Vegas and got shot on the way back home or what, but it felt like he had this eternal disdain towards the game for whatever reason, so that's always just something I kind of look back on as being just a very weird sort of prickle and thorn in my side throughout my time playing the game, because that's never fun when you thoroughly really enjoy something and then there's a guy who's like, it almost feels like he's trying to disprove your enjoyment. Another memory of mine is how kind of goofy my first playthrough ended up being, because normally what happens is you get the platinum chip from Benny, or Benny goes to the fort, and then you're supposed to meet Caesar, right? Well, I had Boone with me as a companion, and normally what happens is, around when you get to Cottonwood Cove, Boone gives you dialogue where he basically says, yeah, if you bring me anywhere near this Legion encampment, I'm gonna go monkey mode, and I'm gonna fucking kill all of these people. But that dialogue just never triggered for me. So I get over there, and I just start getting attacked by the fucking Legion, and I assume that's just what's supposed to happen. So I go down to Cottonwood Cove, slaughter them all, and then I make my way over to the fort, and I get attacked by every fucking legionary that's ever existed, and we wipe them all out. And I just assume that's what's supposed to happen, is that they're innately hostile when you go over there, and they will try to kill you no matter what. So my whole first playthrough, I never got to talk to Caesar. But I, of course, ended up going the Yes Man route. I feel like the Yes Man route is the one that most people end up doing, just because I liked Yes Man so much as a character. Like, if you saw my New Vegas character tier list, you saw I rated Yes Man pretty highly. And it was just how fun he was as a character, and the prospect of ruling Vegas myself was so appealing. But even after that first playthrough, I remember just doing playthrough after playthrough after playthrough, trying out all the different endings, working with different factions, trying out different builds and just methods of doing things. It was so much fun. Like, New Vegas for a while was pretty much the only game I played. And over the past 10 years, God, it just feels so weird saying 10 years ago New Vegas came out. Mentally, it feels like it's been about maybe 3 or 4 years. I feel like in a logical universe, we would be coming up to the 5-year anniversary of New Vegas, but man, time flies. Appreciate your fucking youth while you have it, kids. But it's just been such a consistent source of joy for me throughout the years. Like, I've played through it many, many times, and it's still a lot of fun. Just exploring the Mojave, you know, looking around for loot, making decisions about certain factions, traveling with your companions, and it really does feel like one of those kinds of games where every playthrough you find out a new little detail or route for doing things that you never knew about before. And it's just left such a lasting impact on me. Like, Obviously, the game is pretty much the same as it was when it first came out, but I feel like in a weird way, I have kind of grown up with New Vegas, because there's very, very, very few games that I think back to as much as New Vegas, and I feel like more than any other game, New Vegas has kind of expanded my perception of, like, good writing, of good, just, like, good, well thought out scripts when it comes to video games. Some games, the more you think about them, the more kind of cracks start to form in, like, the writing or the characters or just the overall kind of design of it. But New Vegas has aged so well, maybe not in terms of the actual gameplay sense, because the video game part of the video game is kind of funky. It's obviously very buggy, and like we're all very aware of how New Vegas isn't the most well-polished video game in terms of that, but what's good about it and what makes it almost sort of eternal is that writing. The well-thought-out factions, the setting, all the different characters, and it's just something that I love thinking about. I mean, I've spent so much time just on the wiki reading about various characters and locations and factions, and I've grown to appreciate it more and more and more over the years. You know, I feel like people's kind of default sort of thing to think about when it comes to New Vegas is, oh man, just imagine if they had a few more months to work on it. And I definitely agree, it could have used a lot more time in the oven, but I just, like, lately I kind of just think, man, I'm just glad it exists at all. And it just sucks that Fallout is what it is now. You know, Fallout 76 is one of the greatest fucking jokes of all time. Because the Fallout universe is so interesting, and it has such cool lore and characters and factions. And now it's just relegated to crap junk like fucking Fallout 76, and it sucks. You know, now that Microsoft owns Bethesda, there's been a lot of talks of like, oh man, could Fallout New Vegas 2 happen? And I don't know if I even would want it to, really. Not necessarily from the perspective of like, oh man, what if they fuck it up, right? But more from the perspective of just like, to me, Fallout New Vegas is this weird little miracle that happened to come out. Trying to recapture that magic for a second time almost feels sort of greedy to me. You know, I'm 100,000,000% okay with the idea of Obsidian doing another Fallout game. Please fucking God let them, but I don't feel like it should be a New Vegas 2, or even be set in Vegas, really. You know, there's an entire fucking continent of Fallout stories that they could tackle. I mean, what's going on in Texas? Like, I don't fucking know, that might be interesting to see. And even though it is kind of a cliche to be like, Fallout New Vegas is the real Fallout 3, I'd say it is pretty, like, I do agree with the philosophy that Fallout New Vegas is the real successor to Fallout 1 and 2. And like I said, it is unfortunate that we're kind of where we're at with Fallout just as a series. Bethesda has it and they used it for one of the worst experiments of all time, and it's just like, man, thank you Fallout New Vegas for existing. You're definitely not perfect, but you've brought me so much joy and just you've really added something to my life, as weird as that is to say, but New Vegas will always be a very important cornerstone of my gamer career, and also just kind of me as a person. It represents a very particular point in my life. It's one of the most anticipated video games I've ever had. It's taught me a lot about just good writing, about the importance of factions, of consistency in world building. And you'd figure after 10 years, I would have had a different answer to the question of, what's your favorite Western video game ever made? You know, ever since a couple of days after I got it, up until now, the answer has still been Fallout New Vegas. And at this point, I'm not sure if that will ever really change. It just has such an important place in my heart as being a piece of fiction that I can always reliably go back to and enjoy and just feel at peace. And despite the fact that it came out a decade ago, I'm still enjoying my stay. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed Fallout New Vegas Weekend. If you somehow haven't played it, I mean, it goes on sale on Steam for like $5 every other week. And man, I love New Vegas so much. Fuck, dude. How's this game 10 years old? But yeah, I'll see you guys next time.